What is up, everyone? John here with Motivation Theory Running. This is another edition of the Monday Night Live, place where we hang out with all of the Motivation Theory Run Club and community surrounding this channel. And let me mute my phone here as I can hear myself twice. So tonight is no formal interview. We are going to be talking to subscribers. More specifically, we're going to be talking to Michael Posner, one of the longtime subscriber and supporter of the channel. And if we can get Joe Kern to square away his technical difficulty, he's going to be joining us, and you never know what can happen. So we're going to be taking live Q&A tonight. If you have questions or comments for anybody that's on, so if Michael's telling his story and you have a question for him, just type it, and then I'll bring it on to the screen. We can answer those as we go along, but there's this is open, free form tonight, like we did in the old days. So it's awesome to have all of you. This past 2 weeks, if you've been following along, I've been doing kind of a 10 miles or more every day for 14 days. Today was yesterday was the last day. Ended up with almost 161 miles for 2 weeks. So 80 and 80, 28 hours of running over the last 2 weeks. And I decided to call it beforehand, to not fail, but just to call it beforehand to tap out. I only thought I would do it for maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3. I need to get some rest days in so I can start another training block. And but it was fun. It was definitely fun. I had my highest volume ever in a week, 80 miles, and I did it back to back 2 weeks in a row. So that was quite the accomplishment for me. So I'm proud of that. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on Michael. It's up for debate whether or not I call him Mike or Michael. So if I switch back and forth, that's my mistake. Everyone, put your hands together and welcome Mike Posner. How's it going?
Hey, John. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Let me change this background. So I'm still playing with this stuff. There we go. Turn off that background. So welcome to the live stream. It's great to have you. I've seen your name quite a bit in the streams, the live streams over the last year and a half or so. So it's good to finally put a face with the name.
Yeah, I've been following your channel for quite a while. Back when I started getting the interest in running ultra marathons and kind of, scanning YouTube, looking for some guidance and, suggestions on how to go about, chasing the endeavor. I'd never attempted something like that before. Previously, most of my running had been, the shorter distance stuff. I'm 52, and back in my late 40s was when I was really in the serious part of my running. I've run all my life, here and there, but when I was in my late 40s, that's when I got serious about it, training every day. And my goal back then were 5Ks. I was just, to me, that was my favorite distance. It was, one of those races where you just go all out, as fast as you can and hold on, to the end. And I got pretty good at it. My fastest 5K at 46, 47 was like 17:58, I think I did. And the problem was that not knowing how to really train every day, and training was like a fast run for me. I'd step out the door and I'd just try and blast out, 6-minute miles for as long as I could. And over the year, I'd say I probably did that for about 2-3 years. And eventually I started getting a high hamstring injury, and it started slowing me down. I wasn't racing, and I'd have to warm up a lot longer prior to runs to try and, get the pain away. I'd feel good during the run, and then after the run, I feel it again to the point where I can no longer run. And tried rehabbing, seen I think it was a chiropractor at the time, but they didn't really have good advice on how to deal with the injury, and I couldn't run anymore, and it slipped away, and I thought I would never run again. And after that, I started living sort of a sedentary life, wasn't exercising, not eating as good, gaining weight, and probably put on about 40 pounds. I think I got up to about 205 pounds, which I used to be like 165, 170. And I went to a doctor one day, and they did a physical on me, and doctor came back and said, your cholesterol is high. I want to put you on cholesterol lowering medication. And I was like, yeah, gosh, I don't want to be on medication for that. So I told the doctor, look, let me make an attempt to lose the weight, and if I can't do it and the tests come back, and maybe we'll revisit the idea of getting put on medication. So I started walking. I took up a really made sure every single day I was out the door, going for walks around the neighborhood, and then that turned into taking hikes up in the hills. And I just love being out in the woods. It's something I used to do as a kid, and when I was in the military, being out in the woods and reminded me of that. And I really took a liking to hiking, and got to a point where my diet started kicking in, all the walking started working, the weights started shedding, and I was doing longer hikes, and I think I got my hikes up to in the 20-mile range. And some days I would work on hills, doing hill repeats of just walking up and down the hill, and it worked really good for me. And one day I just felt good, and I just started jogging, and I was like, wow, this feels great. Like I didn't feel that high hamstring pain. And from that point on, I just started slowly running again. Obviously I didn't have the speed, and I was very scared of injury. So that's how I learned about, the methadone method that, you've talked about many times. And I was an addict on that. Every run I did was, slow, and heart rate, just glued to my watch, and it worked. It got me to where, I was running successfully again. And I think I had a peak, it built up to about 60 miles, and I loved it. And then, that's when the bug got into me, from being up in the woods all the time and being able to run. I wanted to combine the hiking and being up in the woods with the new running that I just got. And, I knew I couldn't run those fast 5Ks anymore. So I thought I'd take my, shot at, trying the ultra marathons. And, just this past Thursday, I did my first self-supported 50K. I was originally signed up for a 50K, but due to COVID, they canceled that. So all the training, over this past year plus that I'd put into it, I did my own self-supported 50K.
Very nice. I have a similar story in the fact that when I started running, I was back in, good grief, 2009, 10, reading the books, like Born to Run. And, I'd already been running 5Ks and stuff. I had been, spending my 30s, working a desk job. And you probably heard the story on the channel, and just gained weight and hated running. Like distance running. So distance running, my definition back then was anything over like a mile was a distance running. Like there was zero reason anyone would ever run more than that. And if you did, there's something wrong with you. I'd never liked running that in that way. And I was, overweight, couldn't run for 5 minutes. And I was a sprinter, baseball, football player. There was no reason for me to run more than 100 yards. And if I did, something was wrong. But the wear and tear on my body. So training for, 5Ks and 10Ks, I was much more competitive. I was placing in age groups, and I placed third and overall in a 5K one. Like I was doing well, but immediately I was getting injured. Because at that point I was in my 30s, and I just didn't recover the same. I was getting plantar fasciitis and just constantly battling with getting in shape, and then, having to lay off because I was injured. And this road racing was just beating me up. Especially when I got into marathons, I always felt like I was nicked up. And that's when I kind of got to figuring out, people run farther than this, and on trails, and this is easy, and it was almost like a breath of fresh air and just a kind of what, there's a sport where you can run and nobody cares how fast you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was the weird thing about it. It's no one cares. If I tell somebody I ran 50 miles, to most people, they're not going to go, well, how fast did you do it? And there is some snobbery, because there's freaks among us who can run that in 5.5 hours. Oh, we just lost Mike. I'm sure he'll join again. So there are people that can run this super fast. And what I liked about it is I could slow down, I could be me, and I could, train slow out on the trails. And it was a whole different world than going fast. Let me go ahead and say hello to some people while Mike and Joe and everybody's getting squared away. So we got Kelly in the house. Hey, Kelly, how are you? We got Tim. Here we go. Hello. Kelly said, "Oh my God, it's Posner. I love meeting." So yeah, it's so awesome to meet the people. Arlene's on. Hi again. Yeah, so we have the old gang here. So you back now?
Yeah, sorry about that.
You hung up on yourself? That's
No,
fine.
yeah, just got interrupted. But yeah, going back to where I was, I completed my first 50K this past Thursday, which was for me a great accomplishment. Again, I'd been training for a year and a half. And one of the biggest obstacles I had just prior to the 50K was during this training over the last year, back in December, I had been diagnosed with thyroid cancer, which was obviously a complete shock. And it was right in the middle of my training. I had already, signed up for the race that I had said got canceled. And, I kind of had to, I fought through that and continued my training as I knew this was, happening. And eventually the diagnosis of the thyroid cancer, they had to, do a thyroidectomy where they removed the thyroid. So I had to undergo surgery for that. And I literally, I think I even ran the morning of my surgery, because I didn't want to mess up my training. Had the surgery, and I think I was off for probably about a week. And then I started, feeling a little bit better. But at this point I was on thyroid hormone medication and my body was getting used to that. And for those that don't know, thyroid hormone, believe it or not, it does play a role in regulating your heartbeat. And being a math guy, I noticed that after doing this, I had a sort of different thyroid level at first, and it was kind of messing with my heart rate. And I was having a hard time even following heart rate training, because my heart rate monitor would just, skyrocket, after, because I believe the medication was causing, because I was experiencing hypothyroidism, or a faster active type of thyroid, even though I didn't have a thyroid, but it was causing like heart palpitations, minor ones. But that was causing my heart rate monitor to, kind of get jacked up. And but eventually the medicine got balanced, and it worked itself out, and everything's back to normal the way it should be. And I think after the surgery for about a month, at that point I had to take what's called radioactive iodine therapy, which is a radioactive iodine pill that you take, and it basically kills off remaining thyroid tissue, that this microscopic tissue that the surgeon couldn't see and remove. So I had to go through that process. And bounced back from that and got back to running, and back on the trail, and ran a pretty good event in my mind. It was my first 50K. I don't really have anything to compare it to at this point, other than I felt really good in the race. I at first I was going to plan on doing a loop where I'd go out 8 miles, come back 8 miles, kind of resupply my water and gels and goos and stuff, and then go back out 8 miles and come back in and, have 32 miles under my belt. But it was a really cool day. And, I had enough water on me when I got out there. I just kind of kept going and, didn't come back to my car. So it ended up being an out and back. So I carried all my aid station stuff on me. The race, I was kind of wishing in the beginning of the race that I had aid stations, because I was carrying about twice the amount of water that I was used to, and I could feel the additional weight, especially going up the hills.
Yeah.
But yeah, it went as planned. My long runs during training, I'd gotten up to probably the most 16 or 17 miles during training, and averaged about, I'd say mid 50 miles, high 40 miles was kind of my average training volume per week. And it suited me good, but I'd have to say after about 20 miles, I was definitely in unknown territory, not sure how to really pace myself. And I was hesitant to really try and push hills, because I didn't want to sort of, blow it all on some hill and bonk and all that stuff. So I don't know if I was reserved, but I'll tell you what, by the end, I was thankful that the last 3 miles was pretty much a downhill, even though it hurt my quads going downhill. It was a good experience, and, you know, something I want to build on with, I'd say my biggest improvement needing to be hills. It's probably most runners. I don't know if anybody ever really masters hills, unless you're one of the elites. But yeah, that's what I definitely, this next training block. I think the day I got back from my 50K on Thursday, I already signed up for another race. It's 10 weeks away, so I'm going to see what I can improve on in this next 10-week block to maybe get a little better than what I did.
Yeah, it's definitely addictive. So you're somebody who's watched the channel for a while, and you're getting all kinds of well wishes and that boys for rocking us out through what you've been through. So
yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm throwing all those comments as we go through here. But so I talk a lot about transitioning from just kind of ultra marathon to ultra marathon, and I try to explain to people that it's never as bad as what you think it is. Now I've done 50 milers that have sucked completely, but people put these things on pedestals, these accomplishments on pedestals, as though you have to be superhuman.
Well, I'll tell you what, John, I messaged you, I think on one of the comments in one of your videos, and I said, you know, it was good to do my first 50K, but I can't imagine going on and doing a 50 miler, because I don't know if I had that many more miles left in me after that 50K. You know, I was pretty shot, but it is something that, you know, I still want to train for, and hopefully one day get a 50 under the belt too.
Yeah, and to me, what I'm getting at there is, though, it's about putting one foot in front of the other. You know what I mean? Like it's hard. It doesn't get easy, but most people think it's like an impossible task if you train, especially under the mileage that you're doing. But, you know, I could put your mileage on one hand and all this stuff your body's been battling on another, and be like, okay, well, you know, you're going through a lot, you know. So, you know, my father right now is going through, you know, chemo. He's had parts of his lungs removed, and, you know, I know how he's feeling. I've been talking to him, and I can't imagine, you know, just going through what your body is fighting through all of that, and on top of doing all of that. But what the point is, I've always tried to get to people is that it is really about putting one foot in front of the other. And was that your experiences is knowing that when you get to 20 and you get to 25 and you get to 28, then you hit the 30, like it wasn't like a magic moment, like, oh, all of a sudden now I'm a different person. It's just that you actually just put one foot in front of the other to go that distance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when I hit 20 miles, one of the things I really noticed was a sort of ebb and flow. You know, I was, I don't want to say it was really pain cave stuff, but I was definitely feeling sort of like, well, you know, I don't know how this is going to go. You know, I didn't really feel great. And all of a sudden, you know, I sort of snap out of it and think, wow, I think I have a second wind going, and, you know, maybe another mile or two, that would go away, and I'd be right back sort of down again, contemplating like, you know, how I was feeling. And it was just going kind of up and down after that, you know, 20 miles. But, you know, I kind of look at it as, you know, it's just getting used to it more, and you know, figuring out how my training will, you know, better, you know, suit me to, you know, hit those distances when I do get under or over 20 miles rather. Because again, I just, this was the first time I didn't know what to expect, and didn't know how I was going to pace myself and how I was going to feel. And you know, getting that first one done was really good to, you know, help improve going on for the second one.
I think you made a good statement there, that the further you go, it's just an ebb and flow. It gets hard. It's a weird thing of saying it doesn't get much harder, but it does ebb and flow through the hard and the easy times as the further you go. It just does the same thing. It's cyclical. So, you know, you're going to feel good, and you know, don't worry about it. It's going to go away pretty soon, and you feel bad. If you stay on top of hydration and nutrition, you know, you can kind of neutralize that stuff. You know, when you start getting out to the, you know, the 20-hour point, you start dealing with fatigue, go when your body's going into a time period where it's normally sleeping, that gets tough. But there's definitely, you know, you can load up on caffeine and stuff like that to try to push past through all of it. But it's just more of the same thing. It doesn't really go just completely suck the rest of the time. Like, you don't, you know, because there's bad points at 50K when you're finished, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine doing another 20 miles. Well, it just does the same thing over and over again. You can keep going.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's slowing down though. You do a 50K, it's not much further than the marathon. So it does still have a tendency to let people go out really fast, especially on trails, because you want to crush it. You want to be, sub 6 or something like that, and you tear yourself up really good. But if you pace yourself well, knowing you're going to do 60 or 100 miler, you're definitely going to slow down a lot.
Yeah, my 50K, I was definitely, it was like, I guess in a sense, a time trial for me. I was really trying to do the best I could. I wasn't trying to do it just to finish it, because I know I had finished that distance, close to that distance hiking.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was about kind of, had that old, 5K mentality in me, let's go, let's get this, as fast as I can do it. And, I just pushed it what I could. That's why I think, at the end, I really didn't have too many miles left. So that's kind of a sign I knew I, kind of gave it my all type of thing.
So what'd you end up finishing in?
Let's see, I got, it was about 33, I think, 100 feet of vert, and I did it in 5 hours, 34 minutes.
Dude, that's
which I have no idea if that's good or not.
That's super good. I mean, going sub 6, especially you had vert in there. This wasn't a flat course. So that's super respectable. I mean,
thank you. Appreciate it.
It's really good. So, you should be very proud of that accomplishment, especially on top of all that you've gone through. But, you put your mileage in, you put in the work. You know what I mean? You put in the work.
Hard. Yeah, I've been training as hard as I could, and after my maffetone stuff, I did realize that this is just my opinion and how my body reacted to it, but I felt I was missing something, and I did transition to adding speed work and especially with strides, just to get the leg power going more and doing hill repeats, for about 2 minutes as fast as I could. I think that's played a big part in my training, and I have lots of plans, especially for hill work coming up.
Absolutely. So Arlene says, amazing, Posner, a 50K after thyroid surgery. Joe Kern says you're his new hero. Him and Todd. Kelly says, incredible journey. There's so much going on behind the Strava stats. Absolutely. So, people see those and they make judgments. And, for a long time, I've been an advocate of the maffetone method and running at a low heart rate. And I think what most people overlook this past 2 weeks, and I think, people think about running, 10 more miles every day, like running full out. And what I was trying to get across to people when I was saying it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, it's because I was running at low heart rate. Most of that was low heart rate. It was more
low heart rate trained me. The one of the biggest takeaways I have from math is it taught me how to easy run, because that's something that wasn't really in my lexicon, especially back in the 5K days where every day was a go as fast as I can type of thing. I didn't even know what easy running was back then. And I do love easy runs. I love the heart rate training, and it helps a lot. It's got its time and its place for sure. And it helps me. It helps prevent injuries, and on the days I choose to go fast, which is a very minimal, maybe 1 day a week, there's, a little burst here and there. And I try and typically keep it to, like 30-second strides, to get the speed work kind of done. But the math method, the biggest goal is, teaching me how to run easy and get those, more miles in without having to take the recovery days as much, especially as, I get older.
100% as you get older. So, I talked about, hitting an 80-mile week and then doing 2 80-mile weeks back to back. I'm being dead serious with it. Anytime I used to hit 60 miles, over 60 miles previously, I would always get injured. There would be some sort of injury that would knock me out for a week or two when I would push because I wasn't doing math back then. I wasn't running slower. I wasn't taking it easy. I was running a lot harder, and I see what I can do now. And obviously, I have a year and a half after my comeback of coming back, and I've been doing this the whole time. There are times when it's hot outside and I'm running hills, and my heart rate does start to creep up. Mm-hmm. But I walk the hills. I mean, there's a lot of power walking these hills just to keep my heart rate down, and I think that's one of the biggest benefits of me getting through a lot of these ultras is just really being able to understand. Being able to be efficient at a lower heart rate and going slower, because sometimes it is harder. Maintaining my form and all of that stuff as when I try to run slower, I would have this tendency to collapse and sit in the seat, and sway my back as I'm running slower, and everything would just kind of fall apart and become really inefficient. So I've really worked very hard at trying to be efficient and strengthen, keep my core, in the right place while also trying to run easier.
Yeah, that's one thing I did notice. Although my heart rate monitor was kind of going wacko towards the end of my 50K, I just noticed by, manually feeling my heart rate that it was working pretty hard. And the effort I'd associate with it was like, I didn't feel like I was really going any harder than an easy day run, but the fact is I was out there, 20 plus miles and my body wasn't used to it. And my heart was working definitely harder than than it was used to for that type of effort, which I thought was kind of interesting.
The heat and hills will do it. So I had that, 15 miler around the softball and baseball fields the other day, and it was, hitting 90 degrees, and I'm not really acclimated to it yet. And I was having to power walk to keep my heart rate down. And then I'd run, it'd be up in the low 150s. I'm like, damn it. I'd slow down and I could, and I was getting dehydrated because I wasn't drinking enough because I was just running around. I was never really far away from water, so I didn't feel like the need to go to my car every 5 minutes to hydrate. So, I wasn't carrying it on me. I was just kind of stopping and watching some games and stuff. So I did see my heart rate start to creep up there.
Yeah, running in the heat is something I just dread. I try and avoid it as much as possible, either running early morning or late at night. And it's just, I don't know how those guys do, like, Mojave 200 or whatever, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like running in the heat, but it's for the type of training I do, it doesn't help. I mean, my heart rate, I am not, I don't know what it is about my body and the makeup of it, but my heart rate starts to go up, and I can cruise through it, but it makes my workout a lot harder than it should be. I mean, especially where I am, I can't run 50 feet without hitting a hill. So, it's a great, I think anybody who's looking to try to stay healthy and be able to go a little bit further to learn to slow down and look into the math method now. And going full on that, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes with it. I think with, diet and all kinds of other things, but mine was just more about, I don't know about you, but it's really more specifically about just trying to train at a lower heart rate.
Yeah, the majority of my training is at the math, easy stuff. Like I said, I just get a couple strides in here and there to, that's the bulk of my speed work.
You got junk miles, and then there's the math. So I try to be between the junk miles and and not overtraining.
Yeah, there was a time period where it was hard, where, I was battling that, zone 2 to zone 3 stuff, and just always trying to be at the edge of zone 2. And, just constantly, like, sometimes it's really frustrating that you become a slave to your watch. You're just constantly, trying to monitor your heart rate and stuff like that. But I get a feel for it. But, honestly, I not focusing on math, I think, and I guess because my thyroid hormone medication has gotten balanced out, but I think my math, obviously with the more training, it's hard to say what's responsible, but I find at the certain paces I'm running, my heart rate is lower than it was when I was just like 100% math, in a sense. So I don't know if that's attributed to just the, more training getting in, or if it's, some of the speed work and hill work I did, played a role in it. But
yeah, Adam says I'm having that problem right now. So I'm hitting the summer months here. I'm going to have a real hard time with my workouts. I mean, I'm going to enjoy them. They're going to be fun. I'll be working on speed, but my heart rate's going to be a lot higher. And plus, I have to remember to restart my watch about once a week, or, I'll have it'll spike and say like 190, 212. Yeah. I'm like, oh, for crying out loud. So I just know immediately Garmin's going to be screwed up, and I'm going to have to go back and like look at it. I'm like, no, my heart rate was not 160 the whole time, and I got to restart my watch. And so I made a video about that, just restarting the watch. I don't know what it is about the Garmin. I have the 945 that does that every so often. It just gets hosed up, the distance gets messed up. I don't know. So I mean, that's great. I mean, you're an inspiration. I follow you on Strava and see the hard work you're putting in there, and
I follow you too.
It's quite impressive.
Seeing all the 10 miles you're putting in. I remember I had the idea when I was doing math about seeing how many half marathons I could do in a row. I think I got maybe 2.
Yeah. It's just, again, it is very weird to say that, but it physically, I could have kept going. I mean, 10 miles a day. I mean, and it sounds silly, but I've trained hard. I mean, I'm in good shape. I mean, running 10 miles a day is not that hard. It's an hour, 30 to 40 minutes, depending on your pace. I mean, I could cruise 10-minute miles, for forever at that point for that, and it was harder for me to get up every day. And it was the mental of like, I don't feel like getting up. I don't feel like going and doing 100, an hour and 35 minutes on the treadmill or go outside. Like, it wasn't because I couldn't do it. It's because I didn't feel like it. It was hard because there's other things I need to do. I'm running a YouTube channel, and I'm planning for the videos, and I got work and family stuff. And so, there's a lot of other things that are vying for my time. And, it'd be really easy for me just to stop doing it. But
how far out's your next race?
I think my next race is August. I think that's a 50K south of me. I think I have 4 more races. I have the JFK 50. It's a Dahlgren 50K. I forget what it's called. It's on an old kind of abandoned railroad track. I'm doing the Marine Corps Marathon live and in person. They switched it, so I'll be doing a marathon. So I'll be trying to go sub 4, which I've never broke.
Cool.
I've been close, but pretty much when I got into hardcore marathons, I found ultras and I started slowing down, and I used marathons just as a training run. So I didn't care to try to go fast anymore, but I'm thinking, I'd like to try to go fast this time. So the JFK 50, that, and I think there's another 1 or 2, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, a 12-hour, the ATR 12-hour version of the 24-hour race. Which is a blast too, because you can just go full out, but those trails just absolutely shred you to the other side of the park where we ran the 24-hour race. So let me bring in.
I was just one last question for you. Do you think you'll keep your training volume up high before your next race? And it'd be interesting to see if the higher training volume, relates or equates to, better race performance.
Yeah. And so that's a great question. So like for me, part of this past 2 weeks is try to build confidence, that I can do that without getting injured. So I'm going to be trying to increase my weekly volume, because I think that was probably the number one thing that holds me back from, to me, in ultras, I want to perform well, but I also want to make them less painful. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to do them, but do them in a way that they don't hurt as much, but I can still do them and perform a little bit well. But I think training the weekly volume has always been kind of, because when you average 35 to maybe 40 week, when you're just kind of like, staying in shape, but it's painful.
Yeah.
It doesn't put you in a position to be super successful. I mean, you can finish ultras on that volume, especially if you're in shape, but it definitely, you need higher volume, I think, to make it less painful and more enjoyable and to perform.
I'd be really interested to see how, bumping up from, like, say, my 50 miles to 60 or 70, what kind of an impact that would make in, performance for my next race.
I think it would help. I think, but I've always been worried about the injuries side of it. Always, worried that, that I would hit injury. But now that I've, done a little bit of a test, it's not a large sample. I've done a little bit of a test that I can probably drop it down to maybe 60, and I could probably carry that out and to go through training blocks back. I love the going hard for 2 weeks and then taking it easy for a week, going hard. I love that feeling, that pattern of training.
Yeah, my weeks are up and down. I don't maintain. I used to maintain for a while when I did math, the 60 mile for, week after week after week. And then, now I'll peak up to, like 50 something, then I'll go back down into the 30s and kind of bounce back and forth to give my body a little break.
Yeah, it definitely helps, especially, I don't know if it's just an age thing, but your body does need to absorb the training. So I'm trying to read through some of the comments here. I'm gonna try to bring Joe in here to see if he's got his situation squared away. Let me add Joe in here. Joe,
I can hear you. Can you hear me, Mike? Or can you hear me, John?
Oh, yeah. I can hear you perfectly.
Nice.
I can't see that beautiful face though as much. You're in the dark.
It takes up the whole screen.
Oh, it's a two-folded thing. I need to see the face and the voice and hear the voice.
Nobody needs to see this face, John. Come on. It's a face for radio right here, buddy.
So Arlene said she got the invitation for the Marine Corps Marathon. Already signed up for the Patas. How do you say that? Paspico 50K that week. Yes, you got to make a decision there. So, Joe, Mike. I mean, you guys know each other through the chat section.
First time we've met, and let me say,
Yeah.
Mike, impressive story, buddy. That got me choked up a little bit just listening to you.
Oh, thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
People like yourself really inspire me, man. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it is inspiring. So that, there's always somebody that has a story that's a little harder. They've gone through a little bit more. And that's what I try to explain to people, just work hard. As work hard as you can. We're all dealt the hand we have. But what I love about ultras is all of these stories come out, and everyone's got one. That's what I love to hear, is how everyone got into ultras. And Mike, you kind of told your story, how you got into it. I think Joe, you told yours last time, but you just recently ran a 50K too, right? You went out smoking, blazing through the trails yourself. You want to give us a little bit of a race recap of what you did?
Yeah, it was a good one. It was my redemption race. I did this race 2 years ago, and as far as Indiana goes, this is probably about the toughest race we have around here. And it's about 100 foot per mile, so 50K is about 3,100 feet of gain. And 2 years ago, my nutrition was off, and I absolutely got smoked. 26 miles in, I was throwing up, and I couldn't keep water down, and I was cramping, and I walked in the last 5 miles. It was terrible. But this year we had it all together. The first 21 miles, man, I couldn't ask for better. It was perfect run. I knew something was bound to happen because the first 21 miles went too smooth. I knew something was going to happen. And sure enough, at mile 22, I missed one of the markers, and I ran about 10 minutes past and had to turn around and run 10 minutes back. And soon as I guess I got going too fast, I tripped up. I took a nasty spill. I got a little disheartened right there around mile 23, 24, but I got it together for the last 5 or 6 miles and ended up beating last time by over an hour. So my goal was redemption. I got redemption. I wanted to do less than 7 hours. Less than 7 on that trail was not easy to do. And I think I come in at 6:55. Just felt solid, felt all around solid. I had that little down spot for about that 3 or 4 miles where I was, had my poopy pants on. But once I mentally got past that 3 or 4 miles, it was game on. I felt like I got redemption. I felt good. I couldn't ask for a better race, honestly. I mean, everything went great, and I'm feeling it today. I tried to go out for a run earlier today, and my quads are just absolutely smoked. So we're gonna do some foam rolling, and I'm gonna go down to Florida this weekend and maybe run some flats down there for a little while. Try to recover a little bit.
Flat ground feels so good. Feels so good to run flat ground. I know I went on vacation after Belmonte and be able to go run at the beach and it just run flat. I mean, I can't handle flat for a long time because it gets super boring, and I'm somebody who can run on treadmill, but it does feel good. I think the 24-hour probably got you ready for that one, right? And helped you go out there and deal with it.
It helped. That 24-hour was an eye opener for me. I thought this race I did last weekend, I thought it would be the toughest race I've ever done. And then I got exposed to what real Virginia races look like, and it humbled me pretty quick. I didn't realize that part of the country had so many hills. You know, we live in the flatland here in Indiana. There ain't much to it around here. Cornfields and soybeans. That's about it.
We have the kind of hills that just they don't seem bad on paper, but they will absolutely shred you.
Oh yeah, we had some hills this weekend that were. You could almost put your hands down and climb up them like a ladder. They wasn't real long, but man, they were steep. And I think the race director was just doing that on purpose. I think he was just running us up hills just to run us up hills, just to say it was tough.
You.
Hey, that was one of the benefits of running. That was one of the benefits of running a self-supported race is, some of the trails I go on, I can either go up the hill or I can go around it. It's my choice. Some of them I did go up, and I have to admit, some of them I did go around.
Hey,
well, this race this year, they had a creek at the end, and every year we went over the bridge, and this year they sent us through the creek, and I couldn't have been happier. I mean, it was knee deep, and it was welcoming to hit that cold water at the end. everything went good. I was real happy.
Yeah, the cold water does feel good. I remember being in a couple races and avoiding the water like the plague, like just not wanting to get my feet wet, but then having it out and back, like Belmonte, the first year I ran it, like I tried not to get my feet wet all the way out, but I was so tired on the way back. I was just plowing right through the water, just completely getting soaked. I was so hot at that point. Like I was ready to just lay down in them. You stop caring about chafing because everything's chafed anyways. You stop caring about sand because sand's already in everything. So it's kind of funny. And I guarantee you, I'm going to be laying down in the streams of Prince William Park here because I trained during the summers during that park where we had this race. And there's tons of rivers and streams out there and pools you can lay in. And that's one of my favorite things to do during the summer.
Mike, when's your next race? What do you got coming up, buddy?
So the day after I did my self-supported, I signed up immediately for a race on August 1st, another 50K. So it'll be good to actually be in an organized event with other people around me and aid stations. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to this next block of training, see if I can, I'm still recovering right now, like you are from the 50K I just did. But once I get back on track, and going to try and get another couple weeks in on the building block and improve, and then taper and go at it again in August.
You might
get pretty hot. I guess it's pretty hot for that one. Yeah.
Well, I'm in Northern California, so it'll be cooler where I'm running. Hopefully, there's a potential that the weather could be in the 70s. But yeah, it could get into the 80s, but it definitely, there'll be no humidity and won't be 100 or anything like that.
The 70s is like right now, if I was running an ultra in the 70s, that would feel like 1,000,000 degrees. Like 63 feels like 100 when you're running.
Yeah. Well, when I did my 50, it was pretty cool that, I was running, I started at about 6 in the morning. It was probably 50, 52 degrees. And I think it got to a high of 64, 66 that day.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing about California is the weather. I pay for it, but it's
yeah,
nice.
I think the 50Ks that I ran, I was running out here and it was like 18 degrees.
Wow.
So you couldn't accidentally get warm on those days. So
yeah. When I was in the military running, I was stationed in Fort Benning, Georgia. So I very well remember the hot, humid South and what it was like, after a run coming back and taking my PT gears off and wringing it out like I jumped in a lake.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you for your service, first and foremost.
Oh, yeah, thanks. No problem.
Much appreciated. That just adds to the layers of awesomeness of you. So, ultra should be easy if you've been through all the nonsense the military puts you through.
Honestly, yeah, I was in the military and I was in a unit that did a lot of the, I'm no David Goggins, but, I was in a Ranger battalion, went through Ranger school like he did. And I was exposed to a lot of the uncomfortable things that, I was placed in, the more painful type of things, though, was like road marching with 80 pounds on your back, where you're forced to go, at the certain pace where, you want to run, but, sometimes, you have to do this road march type cadence and, you're getting, shin splints and blisters and
insufficient
that kind of
footwear.
Yeah. Boots. You're not running in, Hokas or Nikes or something like that. It's, the boots very painful. And, that's the purpose of the training, though, is they didn't want it to be comfortable. So, from a mental aspect, I've been through, the rigors of uncomfortableness in the past. It definitely something that prepared me for, getting into the 50K stuff. But no, I never ran that far, even in the military. Most of my running in the military was, probably 12 miles was about the furthest runs we would do. Road marching, we would do anywhere from, 12 to, up to 30 miles sometimes with, rucksack on my back kind of thing and going up and down hills, but, and carrying, I remember, I was a heat casualty one night. We had jumped into a drop zone, and from the drop zone, we had to, hump our gear, and I was carrying what's called a 240. It's one of the belt fed, like M60 machine guns. And, that thing weighed about, 30 pounds. So I had that plus my rucksack on, and we had to march 12 miles to the barracks. And, time I got back to the barracks, I started, I laid down on my back with my knees bent and my legs locked. I couldn't straighten them out. And, the medics didn't have any IVs left. And, I was basically taking table salt and water, trying to, get it going. And yeah, it was basically, I had suffered, heat stress and was labeled a heat casualty from that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that was the fun days.
It's what I've always tried to explain to everyone in ultras, because I'm a big advocate of pushing new people into it. It is a mental game, and I think we all gather that kind of callus through our life through many different ways, whether it be the military or just demons in your life and things you've been through, things you battled through in your life. I mean, ultra marathons attract very diverse people, but there's always kind of a core to all of us that is kind of the people who are able to kind of go through things, take pain and overcome them, and kind of internalize it and turn it into fuel. And that's kind of a common theme.
I think one of the things that really draws me to, running in the woods and doing this stuff is it reminds me of the days when, when I was in my 20s in the military, and even younger when I was a little kid growing up in the woods of Connecticut, running around playing Army. I just, it just brings back those memories. And, some people want to forget about, the painful stuff, that they, have to endure. But I just, I love it.
Yeah, I made a video about that. I don't remember. I know a couple months ago, I've made almost 700 videos now. So it sounds ridiculous when I can't remember them, but I made a video where I talk about, turning the pain in our lives. And again, that comes in all different forms for all of us, coming from different backgrounds, and being able to kind of turn that into the fuel, to fuel the fire. And I was just trying to explain my experience and why I do what I do, somebody who didn't like distance running, and just trying to find an outlet to kind of challenge myself as I grew older. And, and when you hit those dark places, and, Joe, you could speak to this, and any of the struggles you have in your life or things going on in your life, and be able to just kind of turn that into fuel. And I'm sure you've gone through that too. Whatever you're going through, you're dealing with that on your own. I mean, we could run next hip to hip in a race and have completely different races. You know what I mean? What fuels us, what we're going through, the highs and lows is completely different, even though we're taking step for step the same exact path through the race. It's a completely different race for all of us. What are you guys' thoughts on that if you're talking to somebody who's never ever done this before?
Yeah, it's probably hard to, explain to somebody, especially like a non-runner. But for me, honestly, the woods it's therapy. That's what I loved about, honestly, another part of the self-supported 50K and going up on a weekday, which I purposely went on a weekday and not a weekend, so I'd encounter less people, was just the, kind of me versus nature. I just loved it. It was nice being out there on my, just me and the trail, kind of, fighting it out.
Yeah, Joe, what fuels you when you're out there? And we all have our thing, and sometimes it's just turning off the mind. And to me, that is a lot of it. Running in the woods is therapy. Water is therapy. That's why I love where I run. I have both.
Yeah, the therapy is a great word for it. I had a good run this weekend, and it felt like all my races I break up into sections. Whether it be a 5K, I break up into 3 1-mile sections. Whether it be a 15K, I break up into 3 3-mile sections. This bigger race, I broke it up into 3 10-mile sections. And it seemed like the first 10 miles, I felt like a 21-year-old competitive guy out there trying to beat somebody. I was out there for blood, you know what I mean? And then, mile 11 to 20, it was that, hey, I'm doing something that a lot of people don't do. I felt that, and we've talked about that before, even if I'm not front of the pack, we're still doing something that a very small fraction of people do, whether they have the ability or not. They just don't do it. And then you released a video last week, and I left a comment on it, and I said you said something really powerful in that video that may not have caught everyone the same way. And you said something about being grateful, about being able to get on the trails. And I replied, and I left a comment. And I have a buddy of mine, when he was 16, he was in an accident. He was in a Jeep, and he was thrown out of the top of the Jeep, and he severed his spine, and he's been in a wheelchair from the chest down ever since. And he's almost 40 now, so more than half his life he's been in a wheelchair. And I got to thinking, man, if he wanted to, he couldn't get on a trail. He couldn't see the things that I see. You know, there are trails out there for people who can do that, but for the particular trails we go to, someone in a wheelchair wouldn't be able to go see that. So the last 10 miles, when I started to get down on myself, when I started to get upset in that race, when it started, you go in that pain cave. I started thinking about him. I started thinking about how he would give about anything to be doing what I'm doing. Why should I be upset? I need to look at this as an opportunity, not as a curse. You know what I mean? I paid to be out here. This is what I enjoy doing. I love doing it. And I just wanted you to know that sometimes when you make these videos, you don't realize something you say different people might hear it differently. And that one really caught my attention, and it really helped me in this race last Saturday. The last 10 miles, I thought about him a lot. I thought about being grateful that I'm able to do what I'm able to do.
Yeah, gratitude is very powerful. And one of the things I've tried to do on this channel is be very transparent. There's videos that I make that are very scripted and kind of, hey, here's the top 5 things you can do. Because that's just part of the game here that I got to play on YouTube. I want to leave things that are searchable, that help people, but then I also want to be transparent in who I am and my struggles. And I don't try to portray myself as anything that I'm not. I've said this before. I'm not an elite runner. I am definitely somebody who is working to be better. I've fallen, I've failed, and I've gotten back up and dusted myself off. But gratitude is something that drives me every time I take a run. Changing your mind to I have to I get to is so powerful. Because any of us that are able-bodied, that are able to do this, when I was younger, I used to volunteer when I was in middle school for the Special Olympics. It was just something I did. I learned a lot through that, through the folks that were competing and seeing what they did. And I was a really good athlete growing up, and I felt like what you said, you don't hold a light. Like I didn't feel like I was even representing myself in the best light and the best that I could be by looking at what people did who were not able-bodied, who had to overcome so much more. And it changed me internally as a kid. And I've kind of carried that into adulthood as like, I really get to do these things, and taking your health for granted. Not everyone has that. There's so many people out there that don't have health, that they wish that they could do things. And I just feel like again, I think everybody can do what they want to do. I believe in personal liberty. But I also believe in that it's a sad thing to waste a gift, and health is a gift. And not everyone has to run ultra marathons. I'm not saying you have to run you have to do extreme things to take advantage of this. I mean, just being grateful that you can move, whether it be 1 mile or 2 miles or walking or just going on trails or being a hiker or, whatever it is, it's just kind of how I feel about that. And I think it's super powerful. I don't know, Mike, what you think about this now that you've been on the other side and you've struggled through, being sick, and with this, what that means to you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just the fact that, like I had stated earlier, when I was in my 40s running, and I got injured from running, and I thought I was never going to be able to run again, and to, finally push through and recover from that injury after, I think it was like probably close to a 5-year layoff where I did not run at all. And to be back at it, I just take it, I look back and I feel so grateful that, I have running back in my life, because it's just, I love it so much. And I missed it. And it was something I just very fortunate to be able to do again. And like you said, I'm very grateful. And then of course, with the cancer stuff, that was sort of going into the unknown. I didn't know how that was going to impact me. And, I thought the worst, but, obviously as I learned about it more, it honestly wasn't really so bad in my situation. There are situations where that are way worse than me with much harsher types of cancer. Mine fortunately was caught early, and, the doctors did a great job, and, it was very minimal impact on, what I was, training for. And, I just was able to sort of navigate through it, continue to run while I was still battling through it. And, just very grateful. I remember more, like I said, that the time, that 5-year period where I was inactive and not able to run, thinking I was never going to, run again. And here I am.
Yeah.
And, the thing I just have to be careful, for is, not re-injuring myself. And, because I already sometimes get the feeling of like, oh, maybe I could, try and run, in the 6-minute mile range again. And, I've done that for a mile, or so, but then I'm like, oh, maybe I can try and do 5Ks again. And, I'm very happy with, with the MAF running and taking it easy and, preserving my body as best as I can. And, running, as I'm getting older, obviously slowing down, I realize I'm not going to be able to run those repetitive 6-minute miles like I used to. And, the new challenge now is the distance stuff and,
and longevity.
Seeing how good I can do. Yeah, definitely.
I tell people all the time, it's not, some people could come out, like I would give up having, if I could run, 100 ultras for the rest of my life, or you could say you could win Western States next year, I would always pick to run 100 ultras. Because to me, it's about longevity. I don't care about winning races. I don't care about placing. It's just about, I love the process. I love the process of training and doing better. And Pete Reck said here, I work with Joe and can't believe all the inspiration and drive he has given me. Plus he has led me here, which has been great in itself. So Joe's out there inspiring people too.
What's up, Pete?
See, one of the weird things about, I haven't talked about this yet. And so this is the first time I've talked about this. When I went into, I've talked about my struggle that I had in Belmonte. You really found out my father had cancer. He had heart surgery last year. And then this year he had cancer in one lung. And then they found it in the other lung going through surgeries. And there's part of me that like, he's my hero. He's my dad. He was a Marine. He's a tough guy. And, I'm just always, I'm a positive person. So I'm like, oh, he's going to get through this and it's going to be a thing. We're going to battle through this. It's, you, as long as you put in the hard work and you put in, and everything's going to be fine. And I got up on the top of these mountains and when I started to really struggle, like that demon set in of, holy crap, my hero, my dad is sick. And that just started to eat at me and I couldn't get rid of it. Like, you guys have been in ultras and you've been in the low points and it's getting to me right now. It's hard to turn that off. And that's what happens in ultras. Like those demons get into you and they start telling you that they're liars. And then they start to tell you things and it makes it harder. So that was like the battle that I dealt with the whole time. And, being out there alone and, trying to carry all your gear, I just set myself up for failure. And, so when I try to tell people to turn kind of the struggles into fuel, I don't mean to undermine or make little of anything that anyone's been through. Because even me, not even being the one, I just thought I could be a tough guy. I'm gonna go out there and deal with this. And I hadn't processed it at all. And, atop of a mountain, struggling through an ultra is not the time to process, heavy things because it's already hard enough. So, anyone who's going through anything personally through like that is, it's tough. And, I haven't shared that and I thought I would just because you've shared so much, Mike, and I appreciate that. And,
well, it reminds me of, when you talk about your dad coming down with that. Well, I myself am a dad and I have a 15-year-old and a 10-year-old. And I think the hardest thing through the whole cancer thing was figuring out how I'm going to break the news to them that I have cancer, because kids, associate, pretty bad things with cancer. Out of all the, the surgery, the radioactive iodine, the unknowns, all that, breaking that to my kids was, the hardest thing that I had gone through with the whole cancer process. But fortunately, I was able to break it to them where they weren't fearful, and that, they knew that most likely everything would be okay and all that. And they took it really well, which, that was a big relief. But going into that, thinking, how am I going to break this to them and, not knowing how they'd react to it that was really tough.
It is. I started thinking about all that with my father when he told me, and it was kind of the roles were reversed. Like I was feeling like I needed the first time I'd ever heard my dad scared is when he went into heart surgery. And then when he found out this, and then when he found out it was in the other lung, and it's like, I'd never been in that place to have to actually be the person to try to feel like I got to make him feel like it's going to be okay. And so I was like, well, I'm going to run this race and I'm going to use that as inspiration. He's going to be inspired by me and everything's going to be good. And just, the trail and the ultras and the miles will just punch you. They don't care. They don't discern. You have to respect it. And you need to put yourself in a good mind state and a proper way of kind of motivating yourself. So, let me go here and see if I've caught it and missed anything. I don't know if you guys can see comments. So we got Adam here. What's going on with Adam? Let me back and find here. Adam says, I found your channel looking for a couch to ultra. It's really motivated me, no pun intended, to get back into running, especially since I've started back running at 296 pounds. So this is the channel. If you want to go back and watch the beginning of my my series last year, where I was probably 250 something, getting back into it, and the hardest part was knowing what my body could do and what my body can do, and trying to find the middle ground without getting hurt. It's tough when you know all the things you're supposed to do, and you're trying, and it's tough when you're doing it in front of people too. I think it's a little easier if you're not putting yourself out there. I put myself out there for many reasons, to show people that they can do it. And also that, accountability, that's everything, being able to battle through and come back. So Adam, you found your channel, you found your people. There's plenty of people out here that have been through the comebacks, or they're in their journey right now. So you've found a lot of people here that can help you. Sorry, just checking comments here. I don't want to miss anybody. Joe says, I like finding those voices. Maybe it's sadistic. Yeah, it is. There's some voices. And the reason I went into that, Joe, is I've always used that. I've always used those kind of like, naysayers. You can't do this. And it's bad for you. Your knees are you need hip replacement. I use that kind of stuff. It was the first time I'd ever taken something that really means something to me. Like, really means something, like my father, like that's a thing. Like, that was the hard part. That was when I thought I overestimated what I could emotionally and mentally kind of just consume and use for fuel. Didn't happen in that race. And I'm hoping, now that we're kind of on the other side of all that stuff, and I know he's okay, it would help, but yeah, it was rough. It's kind of hard to explain, and it's even more awkward that I'm in front of people trying to explain it. I think people who get it, and I that's about the best I can do with that explanation. All right, so we have some folks here who've been through some things. We have some folks who have breached into the ultra realm. Any parting words for? We're going to go through each one. We'll start with you, Mike, and end with Joe. For anybody who's looking to get into this, if you're talking to yourself a year ago, if a year ago you weren't doing these, Joe, you might have to look back further. What do you have to say to people who are looking to do this?
Well, for me, it, pretty much was about a year that, I hadn't done this, and that's how I got to your channel. Actually, it's probably been about, a little over a year, and just trying to, research as much as I could, through different sources like reading books and YouTube channels. There's quite a few, ultra marathon runners out there. And I learned as much as I could, but the biggest thing is just making sure I got out the door and, got the miles in, and just made sure that consistency, I think that's one of the big keys is as long as you can be consistent, and then, build upon that consistency and set smaller goals, whether it's a weekly mileage goal or, a smaller race before a bigger race, that kind of thing. And sort of leapfrog your way up until you get to, the big goal. And, for me right now, the 50K was the big goal, and probably the 50 miler will be the next big goal. Yeah.
You got to show up for the thing. Yeah. What is it? I don't know. Is that the ritual that talks about you got to show up? You got to show up every day, and you need to do and I think most people underestimate how much just showing up is helpful and not trying to do too much too soon.
Yeah.
I think that's probably super important, because I think when we all started getting into running, we think back to ourselves when we start running, we're like, well, I'm just going to run 1 mile as hard as I can, and that's how I'm going to start off, and I'm just going to keep doing that until you get injured. And you're like, well, see, my knees hurt, and that's why I shouldn't run anymore, because running hurts my knees. Well, no, it's because you're doing it wrong. You got the wrong shoes. You're doing too much. Just slow down. It's okay. So that's great.
I spent many months just walking. I mean, many months where it was only walking, and then it was walking hills, and then it was walking longer distance, and then it finally turned into running. It was a long process to get back on the horse again.
If you watch my process over the last year and a half, that was, it was awful on my pride. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to document this, and I'm going to show everyone this is exactly what you have to do. You have to walk. You have to power walk if you need to. It's fine. Who cares what anybody thinks? Don't worry about Strava and what those people think about your average time, because it doesn't matter. I care this much about what people think about my times on Strava, because I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And some people are out there just for vanity and, well, I ran this fast. I don't care about that at all. So every once in a while, I like to speed up just to show them I still have it. But that's a whole different story. Mr. Joe Kern. Now I know that you've had your battles. You've done 100-miler, and you've done a 62.5-miler that you said was harder than 100-miler. And you've battled your way as you're not a waif, and you're not 130. You're up there with us big boys.
I'm the Clydesdale of the group, I think. Yeah,
exactly.
I think I weigh in about 230. I think I started this journey, I was about 245. And,
I'm 198 right now. I feel like a waif. I feel like I'm watching these videos, and I'm like, holy, I'm getting skinny now. Like, I'm used to seeing me with my beard, and I have people don't even recognize me now. They're like, is that the same guy that the beard, the fat guy with the beard? Is that you still, or did you give the channel to somebody else?
If I shave the beard, I might lose 10 pounds. I don't know.
Yeah, you might. You might find something in there too.
Last night's dinner. Who knows?
So what advice do you have for anyone who's out there? Now, everyone's heard our stories. We're all different. We all have different backgrounds. What advice do you have for anybody who's starting to get into this?
Well, I come from a little different place. I never was a runner. I didn't start running until my 30s. I've never been a small guy. A couple of years ago, I dropped down to 190 some pounds and ballooned right back up, So for me, it's I love talking to people who aren't your elite athletes, because I'm not. I'm very middle of the pack, For me, it's we call this therapy. We call this therapy in the woods, and that's all it is. If I never run another race, I'm okay with it, as long as I get to go into the woods and do my thing, which is, it's kind of like meditation. It's kind of like therapy. It's kind of, what I've noticed about ultra runners, a lot of ultra runners have, for lack of a better term, demons, for lack of a better term, a past, a history. I've seen a lot of people who are former addicts who've turned to ultra running as a way out. It's very, I don't know, hippy dippy, whatever you want to call it. It's very spiritual. Get out there and run in the woods. There's something about getting back to it. We sit around our computer screens and we sit around our cell phones and we look at our televisions all night. And there's just something getting back into the woods. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate your channel. Mike, man, your story blew me away tonight. Absolutely. Like I said, I don't deserve to be on the same video as you, but I appreciate it. And Adam, I was watching Adam's comments there. Adam, welcome to the channel. One step at a time, brother. One foot in front of the other. Like I said, this could be therapy, just like anything else can. I'm not a big fan of certain things, but I'm a big fan of getting out in nature. I think it's good for your body, good for your soul. So that being said, I just appreciate you guys. I appreciate this channel. I appreciate being part of it.
Yeah. I appreciate being part of it. I've always liked creating, and I've liked being like helping people. And so I think that's kind of where these two things confluence, they come together here. And, I like being able to bring and form a community of people who are like-minded and are able to help other people. And so that's what inspires me each and every day. And plus I use all of you for inspiration and accountability. So it's kind of a selfish in my, if I come out and tell you I'm going to do something, I expect everyone to hold me accountable. So that definitely it helps me quite a bit. So, I've loved, this is coming up next January. It'll be 7 years of doing this. And I love every minute of it. It's, again, I've come up on 700, almost 700 videos, almost 10,000 subscribers, which is just crazy to me. It's telling me that, we're reaching people, we're having more people. And it's not about me per se. It's about, leading people to the river. I don't have to force them to drink, but I'm trying to get them there. And I think it's beneficial to share all of your stories because, I think all of you are awesome out there. And I think there's a lot to be learned and a lot to explore when you listen to other people's stories and what they've been through. So, I appreciate both you and Joe and Mike joining me here. I'd like to make this a normal thing. I know, 10 Junk Miles calls us Meet the Nation kind of thing. And, I want to do something similar to that, to where, we tell the stories of the people who follow this channel and help inspire other people. So I think you both have done a great job of that. And I appreciate you joining me. It's an honor to sit here with both of you and listen to your stories and what you've done. And, it's humbling to know that you even view this channel and waste your time watching my videos. So
it's been great being here. And, I hope other people that are on the channel, get to come on and we get to hear other stories and, what other people have been through and, what they do and how they train and all kinds of things. It'd be great to hear from other members. And
I'm loving these interviews.
Get some more members.
Just like Mike was saying, I'm loving these interviews. I'm loving watching people that I've been able to read their keyboards, but never been able to talk to them or see them. Or I can't wait to see some of the other people on there and listen to their stories. Everyone's got a unique story about, where they're started, where they're at. And I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
And so if you're on Strava, Strava is free. There is paid versions, but it is free. And it's also free to join the Motivation Theory Run Club. You can join us there. We blew up the other day. We're like at 760 something subscribers or, members now. Like it just jumped up like 160 overnight. It was crazy. I'm not sure why.
I remember back when it was like in just 100 something.
Yeah. And it's super
I used to be able to make the top 10 back in the day.
I have to spend 2 weeks running every day to crack the top 10 now. And, it's a challenge, but it's fun. And it's interesting to see people around the world and where they run and how they run. It's just really interesting to me. People in general are interesting to me, but runners are like the special being, especially. And when you niche down to even ultra runners, I love to pick at their brains because there's something special about every person that not only does this, but he's even thinking about it, because most people don't think about it. I think most people we talk about said there's zero chance I would ever do that. But for someone to even think like, hey, I want to do that's my people. Thinking about it, not even having done it. You don't have to do it. Just thinking that, I want to get there. I want to be able to get there. Those are my people. And I think you guys would agree. I appreciate all of you. Ask John when his 100-miler is coming up. I was like, who asked that? And it was Joe. I really do want to hit one. I've actually thought about just doing like a local one, just myself, just doing like one I do by myself, because I think I do that. And it's just like, what, I got baseball coming up and softball. When am I going to be able to have the time? The CNO, I got to pick one, but, like everyone else, I get nervous too, because again, I can't shut my mouth and I got to talk about it. So when I do things, I fail on stage. And that's what I've signed up for doing this. That's the human that I am. But it doesn't take away the stress of it. And that's that I put on myself. So I'm going to be signing up for one here shortly. I just got to pick the right one. it's going to be all downhill for 100 miles. So I got to find that specific race. And when I find that, I'll crush it and brag about all you guys who whined about hundreds being hard. All right, everyone. Well, if you are not subscribed, please do so. Hit that like button before you leave. That way you can, tell YouTube that you like my videos, and then they'll add more of like people to the notifications here. So Arlene said C&O Canal is a gentle 100 miler. Yeah, I've thought about that one, but I've also run on the C&O Canal for 27 miles. It was like running on a treadmill for 27 miles, but that was in the middle of the JFK. So it's definitely something I'd like to try. Adam Jones said, come to Illinois, the Shawnee Hills 100. Yeah, I'm looking. I'm in the market for a good race. You turn this banner off here.
I told you, John, I'll come out there with you. We'll do 100 together, buddy.
Absolutely. I'm still debating on whether or not I want to come run with you across your state. I got to figure out how
invitation's open. Anybody who wants to come.
I got to try to figure out how to do that. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Mike Posner, Joe Kern. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. And it's been an honor to talk to you guys tonight. So thanks for coming on the show. And again, we're going to do these is when I can't get people on to interview about stuff. We're just going to do these hangouts, and anybody that wants to join in can join in. So if you got a story, if you've been on once or twice or 3 times, I don't care. It just makes my life easier to have someone to talk to, because believe me, I don't like listening to myself after 700 videos of editing this stupid voice in my face. It gets old. So I appreciate you guys very, very much. So until next time, I'll see you. Any parting words, guys?
No, just thanks for having me, and I look forward to the next live stream.
Keep it up,
Joe?
John. We're enjoying this, buddy. Keep it up.
All right. I appreciate all of you. Thanks, everyone. And go watch another video now. And that will make me happy. And YouTube will give me a little bit more of a couple more shekels. So take care. Bye.